Welcome to the Newport Residences. That is not on the old port because it's a friend Newport.
Is it
Grace
rolling?
Chan. Grace Han. Han, right?
Is it rolling?
Grace Ong. It's rolling lah. It's rolling like a rock and roll, rolling like the Rolling Stones, like the Flintstones. And you make some barbecue at the fireplace.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about Newport Plaza and Newport Residences. This is of course going to be an exciting development. The reason is because it's one of the rare freeholds that will be launched in the CBD zoning under the Central Business District Incentive Scheme. And this is going to be a two-part series. Reason is because part one, we'll talk about based on information that we have now, estimated launch prices, location analysis, as well as unit mix and whatever information that we can gather right now. Part two is going to be very detailed because we're going to break down in terms of comparative market analysis of resale versus this new launch pricing. Whether is it quantum or PSF, we'll break down and dissect based on bedroom types for you, and also site plan and facing analysis based on different direction, recommendation of best stacks, as well as what are things to look out for, to avoid and to plan for. So let's dive in together with our PRB Insights new launch Banter series. Let's go.
You have to pay a premium to enjoy the void space that comes along with this penthouse unit. This entire project
Something that's very interesting is that on this particular step, which is step number one, right on drop-off point, you have a gym plus. So we're gonna head in. Let's go.
Mission control, we have liftoff.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about this freehold project that's going to be launched by CDL. And of course, as of this day of recording, the launch has been postponed.
Yes.
Right. So why has it been postponed, Yurong?
Generally because of the new additional buyer stamp duty announcement,
How do you know that?
because it was in the business time article.
Okay. No, because I need to make sure that you're saying something that is like with some
the correct
backing,
source?
right? Yes. with
Okay.
some source. Okay. So postponed likely because of taking sort of ABSD hikes. Okay. Let's talk about this project. What was it originally? Just for our audience, because this was not the GLS land plot. It's actually a freehold status, and of course, if we look at the exact locale, let's take a look at Street Directory. If you look at this exact locale, we're in the midst of CBD. One Burnham is 99 years. And of course, that is also very close to all the Far East projects like Icon,
LTES.
LTES. What else? What else is there?
Eon Shenton, Lumer, Skysweet Ansons.
Yeah,
so
these
they're
are
all
different.
around the vicinity.
Right, and they're all 99 years. Right, so the reason why this is freehold is because, bring us through.
This is a former Fuji Xerox building. So it's a redevelopment by CDL under the CBD Incentive Scheme. So basically the CBD Incentive Scheme under the Anson Road, basically what we're trying to rejuvenate the... No, oh my god, that pronunciation cannot.
Rejuvenation
Yeah.
incentives.
So basically it's to rejuvenate.
We can have a look at this article that was published during 27 March 2019. It was a circular, and it was being addressed to developers, building owners, architects, and engineers. I think this scheme is basically to increase the vibrancy of CBD as well as to, I think, challenge the norms of how certain older buildings can be rejuvenated, right?
Because they wanted to have more like mixed use spaces where there is residential component as well as more social spaces. And of course you can see that under the Shenton Way Robinson Tanjong Pagar area, if we can redevelop and convert existing office space to a commercial and residential, there is actually a 25% allower intensification of the usage. So that is also why, in terms of the CDL's portfolio, this is under their enhancement plan.
Also, something to know is that there has been an update to the CBD Incentive Scheme with the latest circular just on the 4th of April 2022. This circular, of course, talks about things like EV charging infrastructure provision, as well as strata subdivision and vehicle parking provision as well. So we can leave the link down in the description box. You can, of course, head in to see what are all these things that is happening. But maybe let's talk a little bit about the maximum allowable intensification. And of course, why does this help the developers? And why does this motivate the developers?
So I think like previously from Fuji Xerox, right, is 38 stories high. And right now for Newport, it is actually 45 stories. So I think like generally if you are the owner of the building, and now you can actually, you don't have to top up to have intensification. Instead, you can build more floor spaces. Then it will definitely increase in your lettable or like your selling. Okay, you can have an increase in your lettable space if let's say it's like a office space, service apartment for your business, and of course, you have a increased square footage that you can sell off as well. The whole development is actually a Newport Plaza,
Right.
which actually has a multi-usage component. So it consists of course, like Newport Tower, which is the commercial element where we have like offices and restaurants, and we also have service apartments. And the residential component is actually Newport Residences.
Yeah, which is from level 23 to 45, and then the service apartments level 10 to 22, offices is 2 to 9, and then level 1 will be the entire F&B restaurant zoning. This what does this look like actually, Grace? What resemblance do you see?
It does remind me a little bit of interlace. I think the horizontal kind of stacking of the buildings. Of
Okay.
course, this one is very tall, right?
Is it a little
Little
bit like
sky
reserve
habitat.
residences? Does it look a little bit like reserve? Sky habitat?
No, like just like the stepping up, like a staircase.
The stacking reminds me of the concept of interlace that you want to... Okay, because if you... Later when we talk about the floor
This
plan...
is neat stacking.
Yes,
Interlace
correct.
is
It's a
creative
different kind
stacking.
of stacking. Yeah, but the stacks does allow for that kind of when we look at the floor plans later, also you will realize that because it is like this kind of stacks, right? So you do have very unique like
Curvature.
yeah, curvatures that is introduced into the floor plans, which does allow. So the reason why interlace, has horizontal blocks is because it wants to challenge and redefine vertical living. That means every level is just one, right? So if we look at unit mix and the site plan, it's also that every level also has a different kinds of unit mix. Yeah, so that is something very interesting about this project. I think we can explore a bit further when we talk about the site plans and floor plans later.
Right. So unit mix 246 units. A quick run through for our audience is there's one plus 32 bedroom with the full suite here. 2 plus, nowadays if you see the word premium, it means 2 bed, 2 bath. If you don't see the word premium or you see like standard or compact, sometimes it means like 2 bed, 1 bath. And 2 plus 30 has been a hot favorite in this season, 2023, because of the new level of PSF resulting in a larger quantum. So we can see from some of the past launches, 2 plus 30 has been a hot favorite. How was Continuum? Was 2 plus 30 the hot favorite as well, Yurong?
I don't know.
Wow, check that.
The best selling for Continuum is actually the 2 bedders and the 2 plus study.
I think this is like one of the top most popular bedroom type in this season at the new Quantum. And anybody has any news like roughly how much will be the launch price for this project at Newport?
Of course, from the newspaper article, the CDL spokesperson actually mentioned that launched northwards of 3,000 PSF. We are not sure exactly which part of the 3,000 PSF range it will lie at, but definitely that will be a new record PSF in like District 2.
Right. And of course, I think they are also positioning it as a very different product because this is firstly freehold. You don't get a freehold easily in the CBD zoning. If you notice in terms of the amount of distribution right here, how do you make sense of this, Grace, in terms of the number of units for each type? Like what do you think the developer is pivoting on?
Okay, so if we were to look at volume solely, then definitely the 1 bedrooms are taking the majority of the number of units. This could, be due to a number of factors. First is keeping the quantum more palatable given the high PSF. Looking at a 3,000 PSF, if we were to apply it to the 1 bedders, even at 400 and 495, I think you are looking at somewhere about 1.4 mil. It's still quite a reasonable pricing to buy into a freehold in the Tanjong Pagar D2 area. The rest of the unit mix is pretty spread out for the smaller unit sizes, 1 bedders to 2 bed premiums. And then 3 bedroom onwards, it kind of tapers down. So one thing to think about is also, with the ABSD announcement and having postponed the sale, I think that is quite... it's quite a standard thing to do when there are changes in the market. Sometimes developers are a little bit more cautious.
Actually, this primary reason is because in the Core Central region, right, in the first quarter 2023, about 15.5% of the purchase is done by foreigners. And with this doubling effect, of course, I think it makes sense to take stock of things, relaunch it in a situation in a time where it is more favorable from a developer perspective, when things are more settled down, and like you don't have this emotional reaction from like a new announcement that like where consumers might want to stay more at the sideline to see how like things will unfold at this like fifth round of like ABSD changes.
Right. And I think the positioning by a developer is very different because firstly, they already own this, right? Fuji Xerox building. Secondly, is freehold. And of course, if you look at the TOP date, expected TOP date is 1st Q 2030, which is in 7 years' time. I think one of the reasons is also because they need to tear down the building. They need to have different forms of application with the CBD Incentive Scheme. And of course, this is like a mixed-use project. There's F&B, there's offices, service apartments. So maybe the level of application and approval is different.
Of course, definitely for a high-rise building, definitely 4 to 5 years is quite the norm in terms of like a high-rise building. Normally, like 4 years plus will be more of like the construction norm in terms of timeline as well. And also, I think in the bigger landscape, District 2, we have like 16 developments. And out of these 16 developments so far, those that are on the freehold sites are more at the Spottiswoode locale of District 2. So if we are talking about like really the Anson, Tanjong Pagar, this area, this will be probably the only freehold. If let's say we take out the part of Aries and Onze at Tanjong Pagar,
Right.
which is at the end of the Anson area already. It might be attractive to somebody who wants to own something freehold in this area, but I think later we also discuss whether in terms of entry price, whether it makes sense. Location-wise, what do you guys think of the location?
Location-wise, actually, when I look at this, and of course using the location scan tool, this will tell us, I mean, just now I mentioned, right, only about how many percent are freehold, and most of them are in the Spottiswoode zone. Spottiswoode is actually across the street, is towards the cantonment, is quite opposite towards the SGH zoning. That is a nice enclave with all the conserved shop houses at the bottom, right? If we talk about like Tanjong Pagar as a core itself, and then you zoom out to this, because this is very close to the under construction Prince Edward MRT line, and of course you can also walk towards this Tanjong Pagar MRT station where you cross this entire hype zone at Amara, Oasia Hotel, Icon Village. And if you look at this, actually which was the latest project that was launched?
In One Burnham.
So for One Burnham, how many percent has it been sold up to this point? Because based on what I've seen, max PSF that was transacted is 3340. So while Grace is sharing with us, let me have a look at the transactions. Yeah, Grace, how many percent has it been sold? It's by MCC.
So out of 364 units, I think it has sold about 51%. Yeah, so about half, slightly more than half has been sold. I think it speaks to how niche the crowd is at this area as well. Not necessarily meaning it's a project that is not well received. It's just that at the PSF, it might cater to a more niche crowd instead. The 3,300 max PSF is not really the average.
Yep.
It's quite a fair bit above the transacted at, I think about 2.8, 2.9. Yeah.
Recent transactions, if you look at One Burnham, I mean, usually why do you want to look at the existing launches inventory and their performance is that we want to see what is the bridge and the price gap between this upcoming new launch, Newport Plaza, versus the latest one that's still selling at One Burnham, which is by MCC Land. So if you were to look at this, and of course, up to date, we don't know how much they will launch. In terms of PSF, we'll know in a month or two. But if you look at this, latest, perhaps the 732 square feet, I'm not sure what configuration we have to double check. Probably it's a 2+ study. That's about 2.6 PSF. Highest one was, I presume, a 1 beta at 3.3 for a high floor unit. So if we look at that gap between the 99 years at One Burnham, which is just across the street, versus Newport, if Newport can launch the PSF correctly, having the freehold status, then I think it will have a huge advantage.
Yeah, especially given the number of one bidders as well. Because if the PSF is right, then the quantum will be more attractive also. The bigger unit types, I think also the bigger unit types will be slightly unique. It will not really be catering towards like investors, so-called. I think that because of the freehold status, there will be some interest for number one foreign investors. they want to invest in something freehold in the Tanjong Pagar area, or maybe even family types could buy into the bigger unit types. But of course, even for 3 and 4 bidders, it is quite a rarity in the project, right? I think almost 50% is one bidder types.
Right.
Of course, generally for people who like looking at like Altair, Sky Suite, at Anson, Icon, usually of course you have a predominantly 1 and 2 bedroom kind of unit mix kind of component, and that's because previously, in terms of like when people buy into this area, is mainly for rental purposes to expats who are residing and working, who is working in the CBD area, and that's predominantly the reason why primarily is 1 and 2 bedrooms. Of course, like One Burnham, I think like part of the reason, other than pricing, in terms of like the sales rate is also like the layout is not that effective. A lot more long walkways as well, and so generally these are, I would say, like unoptimized kind of spacing. And of course, I think one thing to consider is when we go into a certain district, right? It's important to look at how is the resale property performance around that area. If the resale property performance, right, has not been well received, or like it has not been, like having good kind of profitability, you might also need to consider whether this new launch that is upcoming, is it going to be on the same boat, or if it's going to outperform to be an outlier, right, then it must have characteristics, or like in terms of pricing, it must have a unique kind of standing as compared to the current landscape in that area.
So going back to just now that particular transaction, that was the latest one, the 2 bedder
732 square feet.
Yeah, at 732 square feet, 2006 PSF, that is a 2 bedder at One Burner. It's not a 2 plus study. 2 plus study will start at 829 square feet. And why do you say that the layout isn't very effective? Elaborate a little bit, you.
Okay, of course, generally, I think in terms of like 1 bedroom and all that, it is still okay in the sense that like you have like predominantly like a more like a foyer area landing zone.
Are you referring to the 2 bedders?
1 bedroom, but okay, even like 1 bedroom, you can take a look like at the main door.
Okay,
at
the
main
front
door.
portion.
Yeah, so like this portion.
Right.
And of course, there will be things like in terms of like your 2 plus study, like you have like this kind of floor plan. Like come in, long walkway with the open concept kitchen.
Right.
All this feels a bit unoptimized. And just remember that you are already paying a premium for the location. And like it will not be sort of like wise, right, to pay for all this unoptimized kind of like layout as well, because in terms of exit, definitely it will have challenge, or you need to find a very unique buyer that can appreciate the uniqueness of this kind of floor plan.
Of course, not all the layouts are not done well. I would say that
this is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, like this is pretty unique. You come in, you sure have a additional space before you reach your kitchen. I think what Yuron was referring is this layout, which is of course like at an angle. So I think this also caters to maybe a different audience lah. So it really prefers.
I wouldn't say it's so-called unoptimized, because definitely you will feel that the home is much smaller if when you were to step in, but there will be an audience type that I think likes that kind of layout, because your private spaces are actually segregated from where the balcony and the living is. So if you are someone that likes to host, maybe you will enjoy that kind of layout. You come in, it's the kitchen area, or maybe you are whipping out a feast for your host, or your friends, and then you come in, it's the living, dining, spread across a longer kind of area. The balcony is at the side, and then your private space is segregated through another walkway. Maybe there are people who do like this kind of layouts also.
Right.
Yeah.
Overall, I do think that between these 2 products, because they're so close, they're segregated by Burnham Street. One is Freehold, one is 99. And when you look at the key differences over here, both of them actually have I wouldn't say similar concept, but if you look at this breakdown of One Burnham, they also have service apartments.
Yeah.
They have a retail podium. Of course, they don't have the office space. Yeah, but in terms of, I think the proximity, if Newport can be launched competitively, then I think One Burnham balance unit is going to face, of course, a stiffer level of competition. Because if you look at the transacted quantum price of One Burnham, as long as I think the pricing in terms of PSF vis-a-vis the size of Newport is done in a very close disparity gap, then I think it's going to look exciting, right? What do you think, Euro?
But I think the question is, it depends on what is your strategy and what life stage are you in. Because if let's say you're investing in the CBD area, I think you are probably more focused on yield play. In terms of like rentability is easy because the volume of transaction is high. For example, I think Icon last 6 months, 140 volume of transactions in terms of rental contracts. So if you want to capture the CBD crowd, yield-wise, you can hit almost close to 5% in terms of yield. And if that is your primary direction, then I think it could make sense to consider something in District 2. But if you're looking more for like capital appreciation, then you might have other options to look at. Due to the general performance of like District 2, right? Mainly is, end of the day, what is the percentage of people that will be actually buying for own use, and what are the percentage that will be for investors. And if investors come in terms of exit audience wise, they are going to have plenty of options to consider as well in the surrounding vicinity. So why do they have to buy this project specifically? So I think that is also one thing to consider during the exit point.
So personally, would you buy into District 2, Grace?
District 2, maybe as a second property, but I think if I'm looking at a primary property, I will not be considering District 2.
Why?
Okay, two angles to look at it. First is like a lifestyle kind of angle. I'm not someone that likes to, live in the city center. That's just my personal preference. I think that it's a little bit too claustrophobic, a little bit too much work around me. I prefer something like more in the OCR area.
Okay.
Yeah, with
But it's very
more
quiet,
nature.
in the evening time when the work crowd is
In the
more-
weekends
Yeah,
as well.
so-
In the
yeah.
weekends, very quiet.
Yeah.
So let's say like I've accompanied clients to see like Icon and things like that. When we go on the weekends, it's like a ghost town. Yeah. So okay, I mean there are people who love to live in the D2 area, right? Because there's so much food, there's so much it's very exciting, along the Tanjong Pagar, all the food
Yes.
options. So there are people who love it, but personally for me, I would rather live in a place where it's more like family centric and it doesn't have as many investors, which means a lot of other like tenants as well, and a lot of like people who are here, who are renting like instead of living. Yeah, that's my personal preference for in terms of lifestyle.
I think general
Yeah.
CBD living is suitable for people who like to be in walking distance, maybe to their
Yes.
workplaces. They like a more diverse kind of mix, in a sense that like you have more different profiles as well as like backgrounds of different expatriates as well.
Yes.
You might like to enjoy, drinks, like gatherings, like after work
Yeah.
with your colleagues. I think like
Yeah.
this will be in terms of like the own use kind of crowd
Yeah.
that will be attracted to this kind of area.
So your opinion is that this launch at this season, in this current state of our cooling measures, is going to still attract a lot of people that are buying for own use?
No, not really.
Okay.
And then what I'm saying is that, okay, this will be the group of audience that might be attracted to stay in such kind of location. But I think in terms of like the percentage of people who are like this kind of profile, I don't think like it is a wide range.
Yeah.
In
Okay,
that sense.
but the rejuvenation in the area and the revitalization of these city areas, right, to introduce more mixed-use developments such as Newport, is a move towards having more people move into the city center instead of city center being just for work, right? So the URA plans and all that speak to having work, life and play all at one area, right? So this could be what we are experiencing now, but as more people, let's say they uptake these projects, and as these projects come to life, and 7 years later, it might be a very different scene. Yeah, so the city center might also, become a place where you will see a lot of activity even after work hours, even on the weekends. Yeah.
Very interesting point, Grace. So if we look at what has been happening in terms of development, then we try to understand why is it that our government is trying to reintroduce work, live and play in CBD. If you look at the whole setup of our island, I think over the last 10 years, there has been a lot of push for housing and activities outwards.
Decentralization.
Yeah.
Decentralization, right? And I think that was because CBD was getting too packed. City zoning traffic heavy.
Yeah.
And let me just share some examples. The rental, if you're a tenant trying to set up a retail business in Serangoon next mall, you're paying a higher PSF than some of the prime per square foot rental space in the central region, because the amount of rental that you're paying in that mall itself, the amount of traffic that they have is just enormous. So when you look at also a second zone, which is on top of shopping malls, having its own pivot in different areas, right? For example, let's say I just completed a talk at UOB Tampines, everyone was there. Tampines is considered like the Orchard of the East. They already have 3 mega malls. People don't even need to travel to Orchard and CBD to shop. They can stay in Tampines. And then what is happening is that the international schools are being pushed outwards. If you look at, for example, Overseas Family School, that was like one of the prime international school in the River Valley zoning, Lornie area. Now it's being pushed to be relocated in Pasir Ris. The direction is that every part of the OCR should have its own node. That means it has its own hospital, its own mega shopping malls, its own integrated developments, its own Overseas Family School. And that's also the reason why in heartlands, you're seeing a lot of tenants.
And also more commercial development, so that like ideally we can decentralize, like business activity that don't have to be in CBD area to the heartlands. And
Correct.
it will be easier to also in terms of like travel commute, like they don't always have to come down to the CBD area.
Yeah, so like Paya Lebar Business Hub, Jurong Business Hub.
Bishan will be the
next
another
one.
spot also.
No, and of course recently, like some of our clients, they also share with us like, hey, it seems like my heartland has become more vibrant. I have more international tenants living here now compared to the past. So let's come back to this work, live and play. So if you notice, there's like car-free Sundays now in certain parts of the CBD zoning. This was just published in April this year. Basically, certain sections of the Civic and Central Business District are closed off last weekend of each month. And it's like a car-free zoning.
Reminds me of La Paz at night. The Satay Street.
Okay, so could this be a attractive point that now is like they want to bring back people to live in the CBD, right? Could this be because of too much decentralization in the past 10 years? Now they want to bring back people to live in the CBD zoning and then reintroducing all this stuff. Like, what do you think? And how can developers pivot using these approaches?
I definitely think so, because the scheme itself is named Rejuvenation Scheme, right? So it's to revitalize the entire area by having work and living coincide in the same place. Yeah, so I think that it's a very clear move to bring back,
People.
people into the central area. I mean, not bring back people in a sense, come and then, eat, come and then work, but come and live here. And then, it will definitely attract people who want to be near all these commercial
Is this
hubs.
very timely with the pandemic?
Pandemic.
I mean, because after the pandemic, office spaces suffered in terms of rental, and people are used to now working from home. Although not everybody want to come back to office most of the time to meet people, but could this be also very timely because of this new change?
I think like definitely. So even like for probably many MNCs, I think like based on when we look at the data, they have also sort of like reduced their floor space that they have, because people are working from home. Many have changed to like hot desking format when it is your schedule to come back to the office. And so I think generally in terms of like the office usage, from a government standpoint or our population growth and all that, it would make sense to actually have better usage coming back towards the residential component. To give more, I would say, options in terms of like, if you want to stay in the CBD area, because most of the time major launches have mainly been in like your outside central region, rest of central, or if it's core central, usually is your district 9, 10, 11. Of course, we have like many white sites that we can still develop in the marina area as well.
Right. Actually, if you look at this, I think really sometimes if you're a developer, there's like an in-depth strategy team within every developer firm. You look at this very clear cut. You technically need to just sell out these 3. You have reached 55% already, because these 3 comprise of about 132 units out of 246. You reach 55 to 60%. Just need to sell your 1 bed, 1 plus study, and 2 bedder. Make sure that their quantum is palatable, because most of your audience will be single professionals, young couples. They love freehold. They maybe don't want to touch 99 years. And if they see this brand new product here, it might be very exciting for them. I'm just a little bit puzzled also of the TOP date because here it states 2030, but of course if we look at some of the maps right here, 2027, we'll clarify that once we have more information as well, right?
So interestingly, we were talking about the unit mix. Something that I noticed also is that if you were to take a look, the one bedders, two bedders, they belong to the more traditional squarish type where it really maximizes square footage. But if you were to move up to the bigger unit types, then you'll start to see more unique kind of layout where you do have that curvature. Let's say maybe you can look at the floor plans.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, what I'm more excited about is the super penthouse that take up the entire floor plate.
You want to buy?
No, I cannot afford at level 45. Definitely, this is for quite an international crowd. So I remember Warwick, right? So the super penthouse has also been bought by Sir Dyson before, which I think is sell in
So
1.5 years after the purchase.
Yes.
So I would say that generally all these super penthouse, a likely attraction factor will be international audience.
I don't think they will even release the super penthouse. There's only one. I think if I were to be CDL, they will want like a super high profile person to own this penthouse. Yeah, right. It's perhaps by invitation. They are not even putting the penthouse plan in the brochure, right?
I mean, it's not your everyday person.
Correct.
Can come
Of course,
in and-
12,000 square feet, right? How much would that be? I mean, the PSF, I think it will not be 3,000 plus. It will be very different. Perhaps $5,000 per square foot or $6,000 per square foot. It will be a different range of PSF, I believe.
I believe. Okay, even if it's at like 12,000 square footage, 4,000 PSF, that would be $48 million.
8 mil.
Right, so
Should price it at 6,000. How much would that be?
6,000,
70 over million.
72
72.
million.
Because you are freehold, right? You should technically win. I mean, of course, it's a different product. I mean, if Warwick, fantastic product. How much are they selling?
Let's see that.
Anyway, we're going to deep dive into the floor plan on part 2 of our series. Because part 2, we're going to talk about floor plans. We're going to break down in very detailed tables and we're going to comparison between the resale properties. Let's say, for example, if you're hunting for a one-bedder, what are the choices of resale that you have in the CBD zone? What are the choices of balanced new launches? What are the choices in Newport Plaza? And then we'll try to dissect these 3 different products in the CBD zoning to help you to have a better understanding. Of course, we're then going to do for 2-bedders, 2+30, 3-bedders as well, so that you will know exactly if you're buying an older 99 years in resale, immediately you can stay compared to Newport. What is the price differential? And we'll also then break down in detail the floor plans as well as our opinion on the floor plans and of course which stacks are the best one, because now we're awaiting a little bit more details to come out. So we'll talk about this in part 2 of our Newport Plaza. Meanwhile, Yurong, how much is the Warwick Residences super penthouse?
62 million.
$62 million. How
That
big
is at 21,000 square footage.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
PSF
Doubles.
2009.
Okay, thanks. Was that transacted or for sale?
That's transacted in 2020 October.
Okay, of course that's 3 years back. What's the latest balance unit available? Nothing really, right? Anyway, we'll continue about this penthouse topic on part 2 as well. So meantime, take care.